Businesses in Perth are slowly coming back to life after a snap 5-day lockdown shuttered the economy a week ago.
We're probably looking at losing anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 in revenue between the two venues here in Elizabeth Quay and in Mandurah.
Staff at the Oyster Bar in Elizabeth Quay are adapting to new rules, including socially distanced dining and masks.
We were living in a time a couple of weeks ago where it was almost not apparent that COVID existed in this state.
The lockdown was sparked by a single case of coronavirus contracted by a young security guard at this CBD hotel. A review into the breach is underway.
It's not yet known how the man was infected.
Security guards in hotel quarantine have not been wearing masks.
The government is facing questions about whether it took too long to get its act together.
The state government says it's now mandatory for all workers in high-risk areas of hotel security to wear masks and eye protection.
We will leave no stone unturned to ensure we find out exactly what happened to prevent it from happening again.
But fresh concerns have been raised with 730 about other gaps in the system.
Hello, my name's James Whitehouse. I'm an overseas traveller returning to Perth, where I live. I've been back in the UK for my father's funeral. This is my home, has been for the last 10 days.
James Whitehouse is nearly through his 14-day quarantine at the Hyatt Regency in Perth.
And that's my delightful view.
From his window, he can see the floor below and was surprised to see people moving about on balconies.
I thought they were fellow inmates, as we call ourselves, fellow quarantiners. I rang the reception and said, how come they've got a balcony and I haven't? And that's when reception clarified that they are paying guests.
730 understands those staying on the 1st and 9th floor of the Hyatt Regency are members of the general public. Floors 2 through to 8 are for quarantine.
If I was the paying customer, I would not be taking that risk. I think that's an unnecessary risk. But I'm amazed the hotel's been allowed by the government to do that. One of the strangest decisions that we're allowed to have quarantiners and general public in the same vicinity. I thought the whole idea was that we were in isolation.
Members of the public are also welcome to book rooms at another quarantine hotel down the road, the Pan Pacific. In a statement, WA Health confirmed 2 hotels are open to the public to stay. Both must meet strict requirements and ensure that the hotel is clearly divided into 2 very separate areas. They must use separate kitchen staff and be certain that function room guests do not have access to quarantine areas. Both hotels declined to be interviewed by 730.
We have queried this at length with our medical advisors, at length, and they have advised us that there is not a risk there.
So given the concern about airborne transmission of COVID-19, how can you be sure that someone staying on level 1 of the Hyatt Regency, for example, isn't being exposed to the same air as someone quarantining potentially with the virus on level 2?
The advice we've been given by the medical advisors, it is not a risk.
It's an unnecessary risk to put the public in the same facility as people who are quarantining.
Candice Dix is an occupational hygienist for mining giant Rio Tinto and has had first-hand experience of Australia's hotel quarantine system. She spent 14 days in a Sydney hotel last year with her newborn twins.
What I noticed was that there was massive inconsistencies with the kind of respiratory protection that was in place for these workers. And also what concerned me was, what kind of ventilation controls are in place for these enclosed hotels.
The suitability of hotels for quarantine continues to be debated. A quarantine worker at Melbourne's Holiday Inn is the latest to test positive for the virus. But the federal government is pushing ahead with plans to lift flight caps to allow more Australians stranded overseas to come home.
It remains the case that the most effective way to deliver at the scale that Australia needs to deliver these arrangements, that hotel quarantine remains the most effective way to do that.
So the workers should be wearing a P2 respirator or higher, and they need to be approved. The key thing about this respirator is that it's face fitting. So all parts of the respirator will contact the face and create a seal so that you can't get aerosol transmission through any gaps.
Candice Dix says extreme measures are taken to combat airborne risks on mine sites such as asbestos and silica, and a similar approach should be taken in order to keep quarantine workers safe.
If we can do it on a remote mine site, we can do it for our quarantine workers.
So we've just had the knock at the door for breakfast.
Those inside the hotel quarantine system hope their concerns will be heard.
Look at the rest of the world. We are in a really, really good place. We need to look after it and make sure it works. And if that means we tighten what happens in hotel quarantine, I would say do it. We don't find it easy, but if we can keep Australia safe, so much the better.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.